Wake up. Before you touch your phone, before you complain, before you think about your problems, breathe, because somebody didn't wake up today. Gratitude is not just saying a thank you. Gratitude is a mindset. It's waking up and saying, I've got another chance. You might not have everything you want, but you got something most people forget: life. When you wake up with gratitude, your problems become smaller, your focus becomes sharper, your energy becomes stronger. Stop waking up tired of life. Start waking up thankful for life. Because when you're grateful, you don't waste time. You don't complain, you compete. You don't blame, you build. Every morning is a gift. And if you treat it like a gift, you'll start living like a winner. Backhand index pointing right. So tomorrow morning, I want you to say, I'm alive. I'm blessed. I've got another shot. I've got another shot. Let's go. Waking up with purpose instead of pressure is one of the most transformative shifts you can make in your life. Yet it's something most people overlook. Every morning, before your feet even touch the ground, there's a silent decision being made. It's not always conscious, but it shapes everything that follows. You either wake up feeling like the world is on top of you, or you wake up ready to take control of your day. Pressure says, I have to. Purpose says, I get to. That one small shift in language reflects a massive difference in mindset. When you wake up with pressure, your mind immediately starts racing. You think about deadlines, responsibilities, expectations, and all the things that could go wrong. Your body might still be in bed, but your thoughts are already overwhelmed. It feels like you're behind before the day even begins. Pressure makes you reactive. It puts you in a state where you are constantly trying to catch up, constantly trying to survive the day rather than own it. And when you live like that long enough, life starts to feel like a burden instead of an opportunity. Purpose, on the other hand, slows everything down in the best way. It grounds you. When you wake up with purpose, you remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. You don't just see tasks, you see meaning. You don't just see obligations, you see opportunities to grow, to improve, to move closer to life you want. Purpose doesn't remove responsibility, but it transforms how you experience it. The same job, the same routine, the same challenges can feel completely different depending on whether you approach them with pressure or purpose. Think about it like this. Pressure is external. It comes from expectations, what people want from you, what society tells you to be doing, what deadlines are looming. Purpose is internal. It comes from your values, your goals, your vision for your life. When you wake up driven by pressure, you're being pulled by forces outside of you. When you wake up driven by purpose, you're being pushed forward by something within you. And that internal drive is far more powerful and sustainable. One of the reasons people default to pressure is because they haven't taken the time to define the purpose. It's hard to wake up excited when you don't know what you're working toward. It's hard to feel motivated when your days feel random or disconnected. That's why clarity is so important. Purpose doesn't always have to be something grand or world-changing. It can be as simple as wanting to become a better version of yourself, wanting to provide for your family, wanting to learn, grow, and improve. What matters is that it's meaningful to you. When you wake up with purpose, your morning changes. Instead of grabbing your phone and immediately scrolling through other people's lives, you take a moment to check in with yourself. You ask, what kind of person do I want to be today? You set an intention. It might be to stay disciplined, to stay positive, to stay focused, or to show up fully in whatever you do. That intention becomes your anchor. Throughout the day, when distractions come, when challenges arise, you can come back to that purpose and realign yourself. Pressure often leads to burnout because it keeps you in a constant state of stress. It makes you feel like no matter how much you do, it's never enough. There's always more to accomplish, more expectations to meet, more boxes to check. Over time, that feeling drains your energy and kills your motivation. Purpose, however, fuels you. Even when things get hard, even when you're tired, there's a deeper reason pushing you forward. You're not just going through the motions, you're moving towards something that matters. Another important aspect of waking up with purpose is ownership. Pressure makes you feel like a victim of your circumstances. It makes you feel like things are happening to you. Purpose flips that. It puts you in control. You start to see yourself as the driver of your life. not just a passenger. You begin to take responsibility for your actions, your mindset, and your results. And that sense of ownership is empowering. It gives you confidence. It reminds you that you have the ability to shape your day no matter what challenges come your way. There will still be difficult mornings. There will still be days when you don't feel like getting up, when you're tired, when things aren't going your way. Purpose doesn't eliminate those moments. It helps you push through them. It gives you a reason to keep going. Motivation fades because motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. But purpose is deeper. It's steady. It's something you can rely on even when you don't feel like it. Your environment also plays a role in whether you wake up with pressure or purpose. If your surroundings are chaotic, negative, or filled with constant distraction, it's easy to fall into a pressure-driven mindset. That's why it's important to create a morning routine that supports your purpose. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as taking a few minutes to reflect, to pray, to journal, or to set your intentions for the day. Those small actions help you start your day from a place of control rather than chaos. The way you talk to yourself in the morning matters more than you think. If the first thing you tell yourself is, "I'm tired, I don't want to do this is going to be a long day," you're setting the tone for everything that follows. But if you shift that self-talk to something like, "I have another opportunity today, I'm going to give my best. I'm working towards something meaningful," you immediately change your mindset. It doesn't mean everything will be perfect, but it puts you in a stronger position to handle whatever comes your way. Waking up with purpose also means being intentional with your time. When you're driven by pressure, it's easy to get caught up in busy work, doing things just to feel productive without actually moving forward. Purpose helps you focus on what truly matters. It helps you prioritize. You start to ask yourself, is this aligned with my goals? And if the answer is no, you begin to make different choices. There's also a sense of gratitude that comes with purpose. When you see your day as an opportunity rather than an obligation, you start to appreciate it more. You begin to value your time, your energy, your experiences. Even the challenges become meaningful because you know they're part of your growth. Pressure makes you resent your responsibilities. Purpose makes you embrace them. It's important to understand that this shift doesn't happen overnight. If you spent years waking up with pressure, it will take time to rewire your mindset. But every morning is a new chance to practice. You don't have to get it perfect. You just have to be intentional. Even a small shift can make a big difference over time. Surrounding yourself with the right influences can also help reinforce this mindset. Whether it's listening to something positive, reading something inspiring, or being around people who are driven and focused, those influences can help you stay aligned with your purpose. They remind you of what's possible and keep you motivated to keep going. At the end of the day, waking up with purpose is about how you choose to see your life. It's about recognizing that every day you have is valuable. It's about understanding that you have control over your mindset, even if you can't control everything around you. It's about deciding that you're not going to let pressure dictate your life, but instead you're going to be guided by something deeper and more meaningful. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You start to notice a difference, not just in your mornings, but in your entire day. You feel more focused, more energized, more in control. You handle challenges better. You make better decisions. You show up differently in everything you do. Because when you wake up with purpose, you're not just going through the motions. You're living intentionally, and that changes everything. Gratitude has a quiet but undeniable power to transform the way you see your life. It doesn't change your circumstances instantly, and it doesn't magically remove your problems. But it changes something even more important. It changes your perspective. And once your perspective shifts, everything else begins to follow. When you truly understand that gratitude turns what you have into enough, you begin to realize that fulfillment is not about accumulation, but about appreciation. Most people live in a constant state of wanting more. More success, more money, more recognition, more comfort. There's nothing inherently wrong with ambition, but when your entire sense of happiness depends on what you don't yet have, you trap yourself in a cycle of dissatisfaction. You achieve one thing, Instead of feeling content, your mind immediately moves to the next target. You climb one level, and suddenly it feels normal, no longer special. That's how the human mind works when it is not grounded in gratitude. It adapts quickly and keeps chasing. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. It forces you to pause and acknowledge what is already present in your life. It shifts your attention from scarcity to abundance. Instead of focusing on what's missing, you start noticing what's already there. And when you do that consistently, something powerful happens. You stop feeling like you're lacking, even if your situation hasn't changed. This doesn't mean you stop striving. It doesn't mean you give up on your goals or settle for less. It means you learn to appreciate the journey while still working toward progress. There is a big difference between being content and being complacent. Gratitude brings contentment, not complacency. It allows you to say, I'm thankful for what I have and I'm still working for more. That balance is where true peace exists. When you wake up and immediately think about everything you don't have, your day starts with a sense of deficiency. You feel behind, as if life owes you something it hasn't delivered yet. That mindset creates frustration and impatience. It makes even small inconveniences feel overwhelming because they add to the narrative that things aren't going your way. But when you begin your day with gratitude, even simple things start to feel meaningful. A roof over your head, food to eat, the ability to move, to think, to breathe. These are things that often go unnoticed until they are taken away. Gratitude teaches you to value what is often taken for granted. It reminds you that what you have today might have once been something you prayed for. There was a time when you wished for the opportunities, the resources, or even the small comforts you now consider normal. But because you adapted to them, you stopped seeing them as blessing. Gratitude brings that awareness back. It reconnects you with the appreciation you once had. Another important aspect of gratitude is that it changes how you experience challenges. Without gratitude, difficulties feel like punishments. They feel unfair, like obstacles that shouldn't be there. But with gratitude, even struggles can be seen in a different light. You begin to ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of a why is this happening to me? That shift doesn't make the challenge easier, but it makes it more meaningful. It turns pain into growth and setbacks into lessons. Gratitude also has a strong impact on your emotional state. When you focus on what you have, you naturally feel more positive. You become less anxious about the future and less regretful about the past because your attention is anchored in the present. You start to experience moments more fully because you're not constantly comparing your life to some ideal version in your head. Presence brings a sense of calm that is hard to achieve when you're always chasing something. Comparison is one of the biggest obstacles to gratitude. In a world where you are constantly exposed to other people's highlights, it's easy to feel like you're not doing enough or not achieving enough. You see someone else's success, and instead of feeling inspired, you feel inadequate. That's because comparison shifts your focus outward. It makes you measure your worth based on someone else's life. Gratitude brings your focus back inward. It reminds you that your journey is your own and what you have is valuable regardless of what others have. When you practice gratitude consistently, it begins to rewire your thinking. Your brain starts to look for things to appreciate instead of things to complain about. You become more aware of the positive aspects of your life, even in situations that are not ideal. This doesn't mean you ignore problems or pretend everything is perfect. It means you choose not to let negativity dominate your perspective. Relationships are another area where gratitude has a profound impact. When you appreciate the people in your life, you treat them differently. You become more patient, more understanding, more present. Instead of focusing on their flaws or what they don't do, you start to value what they bring into your life. This strengthens connections and creates a more positive environment. People feel when they are appreciated, and that appreciation often comes back to you in the form of respect, support, and love. Gratitude also influences how you see yourself. When you are constantly focused on what you lack, it's easy to feel like you are not enough. You start to doubt your abilities and question your worth. But when you recognize what you already have, your skills, strengths, your experiences, you begin to build confidence. You start to see yourself not as someone who is lacking, but as someone who already has a foundation to build on. There is also a sense of freedom that comes with gratitude. When you stop tying your happiness to external achievements, you free yourself from the pressure of needing everything to go a certain way. You become more flexible, resilient. You can still pursue your goals with intensity, but your sense of self-worth is no longer dependent on the outcome. That freedom allows you to take risks, to try new things, and to grow without the fear of failure holding you back. Gratitude doesn't require grand gestures. It's often found in small, everyday moments. The warmth of sunlight, a kind word from someone, a moment of peace in a busy day. These are things that can easily be overlooked. But when you train yourself to notice them, they begin to add up. They create a sense of richness in your life that goes beyond material possession. It's also important to understand that gratitude is a practice, not a one-time decision. There will be days when it feels easier and days when it feels harder. There will be moments when life challenges you in ways that make gratitude seem difficult. But those are often the moments when it is most needed. Even in difficult times, there's usually something to hold on to, something to appreciate, even if it's just the strength to keep going. Your environment and habits can support or hinder your ability to stay grateful. If you surround yourself with negativity, constant complaints, or people who focus only on what's wrong, it becomes harder to maintain a grateful mindset. On the other hand, if you create habits that reinforce gratitude, like reflecting on your day, writing down things you're thankful for, or simply taking a moment to acknowledge the good, you strengthen that mindset over time. Gratitude also changes how you approach success. Instead of seeing success as something that will finally make you happy, you start to see it as something you can enjoy along the way. You celebrate progress. No matter how small, you recognize effort, not just outcomes. This makes the journey more fulfilling and reduces the constant pressure to reach some distant finish line. There is a quiet confidence that comes from being grateful. It's not loud or boastful. It doesn't need validation from others. It's a steady sense of contentment that comes from knowing that what you have is valuable. That confidence allows you to move through life with a sense of ease, even when things are uncertain. At its core, gratitude is about awareness. It's about being present enough to recognize the value in your life as it is right now. It's about understanding that enough is not something you find in the future. It's something you create in the present. When you truly embrace that idea, you stop chasing happiness as if it's somewhere else, and you start experiencing it where you are. And as you continue to practice gratitude, you begin to notice a shift. The things that once felt insufficient start to feel meaningful. The life that once felt lacking starts to feel complete in its own way. You still grow, you still strive, you still aim high, but you do it from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. And that makes all the difference. Complaining feels natural. It slips into conversations without effort, shows up in your thoughts before you even realize it, and often disguises itself as harmless venting. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice something important. Complaining rarely changes anything. It doesn't solve problems. It doesn't improve situations. And it definitely doesn't move your life forward. What it does instead is drain your energy, shift your focus, and keep you stuck in a cycle where you talk more about what's wrong than what you're gonna do about it. Execution is the opposite of that. Execution is movement. It's action. It's the decision to take responsibility for your situation and do something about it, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect. Where complaining looks outward for reasons and excuses, execution looks inward for solutions and effort. And that difference separates people who stay stuck from people who grow. When you complain, you reinforce a mindset that focuses on problems. Your brain becomes trained to look for what's wrong, what's unfair, what's inconvenient. Over time, this becomes your default way of thinking. You wake up and immediately notice what you don't like. You go through your day reacting to things that frustrate you. You end your day feeling like nothing went right. It's not necessarily that your life is worse than others. It's that your perspective is shaped by constant negativity. Execution shifts that focus. It asks a different question. Instead of a why is this happening, it asks, so what can I do about this? That question is powerful because it puts you back in control. It reminds you that even if you can't control everything, you can always control your response. And in that response lies your growth. One of the biggest reasons people complain is because it feels easier than taking action. Action requires effort. It requires stepping out of your comfort zone, facing uncertainty, and risking failure. Complaining, on the other hand, requires nothing. You can sit in the same place, do the same things, and still feel like you've expressed something. But expression without action is empty. It creates the illusion of progress without any real change. There's also a certain comfort in complaining because it can attract agreement. When you complain, others might join in. They might validate your frustration, share similar experiences, and for a moment, it feels like you're not alone. But that shared negativity doesn't build anything. It creates a temporary sense of connection while reinforcing a mindset that keeps everyone involved in the same place. Execution can feel lonely at times because not everyone is willing to take that step. Not everyone wants to move from talking to doing. But the results of execution speak for themselves. When you act, even in small ways, you start to see change. You build momentum. You gain confidence. You begin to trust yourself more because you know that you're not just waiting for things to happen. You'll make them happen. Another important aspect to understand is that complaining often becomes a habit. It's not always a conscious choice. It can start with small things, complaining about the weather, about traffic, about minor inconveniences. Over time, it grows into bigger areas of your life. You start complaining about your job, your finances, your relationships, your progress, and the more you do it, the more normal it feels. It becomes part of your identity. Breaking that habit requires awareness. You have to catch yourself in those moments and ask, is this helping me? Most of the time, the answer is no. That doesn't mean you can never express frustration. It means you don't stay there. You don't let that frustration define your mindset. You acknowledge it, and then you shift to action. Execution doesn't always mean big, dramatic moves. In fact, it's often the small, consistent actions that make the biggest difference. It's choosing to start when you don't feel ready. It's taking one step forward instead of waiting for the perfect moment. It's doing something even when it's not perfect, instead of doing nothing while waiting for perfection. Perfection is one of the biggest barriers to execution. People often delay action because they want everything to be just right. They want the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect conditions. But perfection is rarely achievable, and waiting for it often leads to inaction. Execution requires you to accept that things might not go perfectly, and that's okay. Progress is more important than perfection. There's also a level of accountability that comes with execution. When you decide to act, you take ownership of the outcome. You can't blame circumstances in the same way because you're actively involved in the process. That can be uncomfortable because it removes excuses. But it's also empowering because it gives you control. Complaining, on the other hand, often shifts responsibility away from you. It places the blame on external factors, other people, situations, systems. While those factors can certainly influence your life, focusing only on them keeps you in a passive position. It makes you feel like you're at the mercy of things you can't change. Execution brings the focus back to what you can do, even within those limitations in God. Your environment can influence whether you lean more toward complaining or execution. If you're surrounded by people who constantly complain, it's easy to adopt that mindset. It becomes normal. It feels like that's just how things are. But if you're around people who take action, who focus on solutions, who push forward despite challenges, that mindset becomes contagious as well. You start to see what's possible, and it influences your behavior. Execution also builds discipline. The more you act, the more you train yourself to follow through. You develop a habit of doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. That discipline becomes a foundation for everything else in your life. It helps you stay consistent, stay focused, and keep moving forward even when motivation fades. There will always be reasons to complain. Life is not perfect. There will be obstacles, setbacks, and moments that test you. But the key is not to eliminate those moments. It's to change how you respond to them. You can either stay in a place of frustration, or you can use that frustration as fuel for action. It's also important to recognize the cost of complaining. It doesn't just affect your mindset. It affects your energy, your relationships, and your opportunities. People are naturally drawn to those who are proactive and solution-oriented. They trust them more, respect them more, and are more willing to work with them. On the other hand, constant complaining can push people away, creates an atmosphere of negativity that others may not want to be around. Execution, on the other hand, creates opportunity. When you act, you put yourself in motion. You create chances for things to happen. You learn, you adapt, you grow. Even when things don't go as planned, you gain experience that you wouldn't have gained by staying still. That experience becomes valuable over time. There's also a sense of pride that comes from execution. When you look back and see that you took action, that you tried, that you didn't just sit and complain, it builds confidence. You start to see yourself as someone who can handle challenges, someone who can figure things out. That identity shift is powerful because it influences how you approach future situations. It's not about never feeling frustrated or never expressing it. It's about not letting that frustration be the end point. It's about using it as a starting point for action. It's about recognizing that while you may not have control over everything, you always have control over your effort. Execution also requires patience. Results don't always come immediately. There will be times when you put in effort and don't see instant outcomes. That's where many people fall back into complaining. They feel like their actions aren't working, so they revert to frustration. But consistency is key. Execution's not about one big action. It's about repeated effort over time. As you continue to choose execution over complaining, you begin to notice a shift in your life. You feel more in control. You feel more capable. You spend less time dwelling on problem and more time working on solution. Your mindset becomes more focused, more resilient, more proactive. And perhaps most importantly, you start to realize that your life is shaped not by what you complain about, but by what you do. Every action you take moves you in a direction. Every step, no matter how small, contributes to your progress. Complaining keeps you in place. Execution moves you forward. The choice between the two is made every day, often in small moments. It's in how you respond to inconvenience, to challenge, to discomfort. It's in whether you choose to stay in frustration or take a step toward change. And while it may not always be easy, choosing execution consistently is what leads to growth, progress, and a life that reflects your effort rather than your excuses. The moment you open your eyes in the morning, something powerful has already happened. Whether you recognize it or not, you woke up. That alone is something many people take for granted, yet it is one of the most significant gifts you are given every single day. It doesn't come with an announcement. It doesn't come with applause. It happens quietly, almost automatically, and because of that, it's easy to overlook. But when you truly understand what it means to wake up, you begin to see that you are already starting your day with a win. Most people don't treat waking up like a victory, they treat it like a burden. The alarm goes off, and the first reaction is frustration. There's a sense of reluctance, a desire to stay in bed, a feeling that the day ahead is something to endure rather than embrace. That reaction sets the tone for everything that follows. When you begin your day feeling like you're already losing, it becomes much harder to find energy, motivation, or positivity as the day goes on. But if you shift your perspective even slightly, everything changes. Instead of seeing waking up as something you have to do, you start to see it as something you get to do. That shift may seem small, but it has a powerful effect on your mindset. It reminds you that being alive is not something to complain about, it's something to appreciate. You have been given another opportunity, another chance to move forward, to improve, to experience life. There are people who went to sleep last night with plans, with dreams, with things they wanted to accomplish today, but they didn't get the chance to wake up and pursue them. That reality can feel uncomfortable to think about, but it's important because it puts things into perspective. It reminds you that time is not guaranteed. Every day you wake up is not just another day. It's a chance that not everyone receives. When you start to see waking up as a win, it changes how you approach your day. You begin with gratitude instead of frustration. You recognize that before anything else happens, Before the challenges, the responsibilities, the obstacle, you already have something to be thankful for. That foundation of gratitude creates a different kind of energy. It's not forced positivity, but a genuine appreciation for the opportunity in front of you. This mindset also helps you deal with difficulties in a more balanced way. When you encounter problems, they don't feel as overwhelming because you're not starting from a place of negativity. You're starting from a place of appreciation. You're reminded that even though things may not be perfect, you still have the ability to respond, to adapt, to take action. That awareness gives you strength. Another important aspect of recognizing waking up as a win is that it shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have. It's easy to get caught up in what's missing, what you don't have yet, what hasn't worked out, what didn't go your way. But the fact that you are here, that you are alive, that you have another day to work with is something that often gets overlooked. When you bring your attention back to that, it creates a sense of balance. It reminds you that even if you don't have everything you want, you still have something valuable. This doesn't mean you ignore your goals or stop striving for more. It means you start from a place of appreciation rather than frustration. You acknowledge that you have been given another chance and you choose to use it intentionally. That mindset makes your efforts more meaningful because they are grounded in gratitude rather than pressure. Waking up as a win also reinforces the idea of opportunity. Every new day is a fresh start. No matter what happened yesterday, whether it was a success or a failure, you have the chance to begin again. You can learn from your mistakes, build on your progress, and make different choices. That opportunity is something that many people underestimate because they assume there will always be another day. But when you truly value the fact that you woke up, you begin to take that opportunity more seriously. There is also a sense of responsibility that comes with this awareness. If waking up is a win, then what you do with that day matters. It's not about putting pressure on yourself to be perfect, achieve something extraordinary every single day. It's about recognizing that your time has value. It's about making the most of the opportunity you've been given, even in small ways. When you treat waking up as a win, you are less likely to waste your day on things that don't matter. You become more intentional with your time. You start to ask yourself, how do I want to use this day? That question encourages you to think about your priorities, your goals, and the kind of person you want to be. It helps you align your action with what truly matters to you. This mindset also has a strong impact on your energy. When you wake up feeling like you've already won something, it creates a positive momentum. You're not starting from zero, you're starting from a place of appreciation and possibility. That momentum can carry you through the day, influencing how you approach tasks, how you interact with others, and how you handle challenges. On the other hand, when you ignore the value of death, it's easy to fall into a cycle of negativity. You start your day feeling like you're already behind, already burdened, already overwhelmed. That mindset can make even simple tasks feel exhausting. It drains your energy before you've even had a chance to use it. Recognizing waking up as a win doesn't mean you won't have bad days. It doesn't mean everything will go smoothly or that you'll always feel motivated. But it gives you a starting point that is stronger, more stable. It reminds you that no matter what happens, you have something to be grateful for. And that gratitude can help you navigate the ups and downs with more resilience. It's also worth noting that this mindset is something you can develop over time. If you're used to waking up with frustration or indifference, it may not feel natural at first to see it as a win. But like any habit, it can be practiced. You can start by simply acknowledging it each morning. You can remind yourself that you have been given another day, another opportunity. Over time, that awareness becomes more automatic. The way you start your day often influences how the rest of your day unfolds. If you begin with negativity, it can create a chain reaction that affects your thoughts, your actions, and your mood. But if you begin with gratitude, even something as simple as recognizing that you woke up, it sets a different tone. It creates a foundation that supports a more positive and productive day. There's also a deeper level to this idea. Waking up is not just a physical act. It's a reminder of your potential. It's a reminder that your story is still being written. No matter where you are in your life, no matter what challenges you're facing, the fact that you woke up means you still have time to make changes, to grow, to pursue what matters to you. That realization can be incredibly motivating. It shifts your focus from what has already happened to what is still possible. It encourages you to take action, to make the most of the time you have, and to approach your day with intention. It reminds you that every day is an opportunity to move forward, even if the progress is small. When you consistently see waking up as a win, it begins to change your overall outlook on life. You become more appreciative, more mindful, more aware of the value of each day. You stop taking time for granted and start using it more intentionally. You begin to see your life not as something that is happening to you, but as something you are actively participating in. This shift doesn't require anything external. It doesn't depend on your circumstances, your achievements, or your situation. It's a mindset that is available to you every single day, regardless of what's going on around you. It's a choice to recognize the value of something that is often overlooked. And when you make that choice consistently, it creates a ripple effect. It influences how you think, how you act, and how you experience your life. It helps you build a foundation of gratitude and awareness that supports everything else you do. It reminds you that before anything else happens, before any success or failure, you have already been given something valuable. You woke up. That's already a win. Before anything happens in your day, before conversations, before challenges, you are already thinking. Your mind is active the moment you wake up, often even before you fully realize it. Thoughts begin to form automatically shaped by habit, emotion, and past experiences. If you don't take control of that process, your mind will run on autopilot. And when that happens, the world around you begins to dictate how you feel, how you react, and ultimately how you live. Controlling your mindset before the world controls it is about taking ownership of that first moment. It's about recognizing that your thoughts are not just random occurrences, but powerful influences that shape your reality. The way you think determines the way you act, and the way you act determines the results you get. If your mindset is scattered, negative, or reactive, your actions will reflect that. But if your mindset is focused, intentional, and grounded, your actions will follow in the same direction. The world is full of influences competing for your attention. The moment you pick up your phone, you are exposed to other people's opinions, news, problems, successes, and expectations. Social media, messages, notifications, all of these things begin to shape your mood and your perspective. Without realizing it, you start comparing, reacting, and absorbing information that may not even be relevant to your life. And once that happens, you are no longer in control of your mindset. You are reacting to whatever the world is presenting to you. That's why the first moments of your day are so important. They set the tone for everything that follows. And if you begin your day by immediately engaging with external noise, you give that noise the power to influence your thoughts. But if you take a moment to center yourself before engaging with the outside world, you create a foundation that is much harder to shake. Controlling your mindset doesn't mean you eliminate negative thoughts completely. That's not realistic. Thoughts will come and go, some positive, some negative. The key is not to let those thoughts control you. It's about becoming aware of them and choosing how you respond. When you develop that awareness, you create space between your thoughts and your action. That space is where control exists. One of the most effective ways to take control of your mindset is through intentional thinking. Instead of letting your thoughts wander aimlessly, you guide them. You decide what you want to focus on. You might remind yourself of your goals, your values, or your purpose. You might choose to focus on gratitude, on opportunity, or on the effort you're willing to give. These intentional thoughts act as anchors, keeping your mind steady even when distractions arise. Without that intentionality, it's easy to fall into patterns of negativity. Your mind might start replaying past mistakes, worrying about future problems, or focusing on things that are out of your control. These patterns can quickly take over if left unchecked. And once they do, they influence your mood, your energy, and your behavior. You might find yourself feeling anxious, frustrated, or unmotivated without fully understanding why. When you take control early, you interrupt those patterns before they gain momentum. You set a direction for your thoughts instead of letting them drift. It's similar to steering a vehicle. If you take control from the beginning, you can guide it where you want to go. But if you let it move without direction, it can easily veer off course. Another important aspect of controlling your mindset is understanding that your environment will always try to influence you. People, situations, and circumstances will present challenges, distractions, and pressures. You cannot control all of these external factors, but you can control how you respond to them. That response is shaped by your mindset. If your mindset is strong and grounded, you are less likely to be thrown off by what happens around you. For example, if someone says something negative or if something doesn't go as planned, your initial reaction might be emotional. That's natural. But if you have taken control of your mindset, you are more likely to pause, to think, and to respond in a way that aligns with your goals and values. You are less reactive and more intentional. That difference may seem small, but it has a significant impact over time. Discipline plays a key role in this process. Controlling your mindset is not something that happens once and then stays fixed. It requires consistent effort. Every day, you have to make the choice to take control. Some days it will feel easier, and other days it will feel more challenging. But the more you practice, the stronger that control becomes. It's also important to recognize that your mindset is influenced by what you consume. This includes not just food, but information, conversations, and experiences. If you constantly expose yourself to negativity, whether it's through media, social interactions, or your surrounding, it becomes harder to maintain a positive and focused mindset. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with positive influences, supportive people, and meaningful content, it reinforces the mindset you are trying to build. Controlling your mindset also involves setting boundaries. This means being selective about what you allow into your mental space. It might mean limiting time on social media, avoiding certain types of conversations, or creating moments of silence where you can think clearly. These boundaries protect your focus and help you stay aligned with your intention. Another powerful tool is self-talk. The way you speak to yourself has a direct impact on your mindset. If your internal dialogue is negative, critical, or doubtful, it will affect your confidence and your actions. But if you consciously shift your self-talk to be more supportive, encouraging, and constructive, it strengthens your mindset. You begin to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles, and you approach your day with a different level of confidence. It's also worth noting that controlling your mindset doesn't mean ignoring reality. It's not about pretending that problems don't exist or forcing yourself to be positive all the time. It's about approaching reality with clarity and intention. You acknowledge challenges, but you don't let them define your thinking. You focus on what you can do rather than what you can't control. Resilience is built through this process. When you consistently take control of your mindset, you become more adaptable. You learn to handle setbacks without losing your direction. You develop the ability to stay focused, even when things don't go as planned. This resilience is what allows you to keep moving forward, even in difficult situations. There is also a sense of empowerment that comes from controlling your mindset. You begin to realize that you are not at the mercy of your thoughts or your circumstances. You have the ability to shape your perspective, to choose your focus, and to influence your actions. That realization can change the way you approach your entire life. It's important to start small. You don't need to completely transform your mindset overnight. You can begin by simply being more aware of your thoughts in the morning. Notice what comes to mind when you wake up. Are those thoughts helping you or holding you back? You can take a few moments to consider yourself before engaging with the world. Over time, these small actions add up. They create a habit of intentional thinking. Your mind becomes more disciplined, more focused, and more aligned with your goals. You start to notice that you are less affected by external negativity. You are more consistent in your actions. You feel more in control of your day. The world will always have demands, distractions, and challenges. That will never change. But your ability to navigate those things depends on your mindset. If you allow the world to control your thoughts, you will always be reacting. You will always be adjusting to what's happening around you. But if you take control of your mindset first, you become proactive. You set the tone. You decide how you want to think, how you want to feel, and how you want to act. That control doesn't make life perfect, but it makes you stronger. It gives you a sense of direction and stability that can carry you through uncertainty. It helps you stay focused on what matters, even when distractions are everywhere. Every morning presents a choice. You can wake up and immediately let the world shape your mindset, or you can take a moment to shape it yourself. That moment may seem small, but it has a ripple effect that extends throughout your entire day. The more you choose to take control, the more natural it becomes. Over time, it becomes a defining part of how you live your life. Energy is one of the most valuable resources you have, yet it's often treated as if it's unlimited. People talk about time management, productivity, and discipline, but very few stop to consider the role energy plays in all of it. You can have all the time in the world, but if your energy is low, unfocused, or constantly drained, it becomes difficult to use that time effectively. Energy is what fuels your actions, your thoughts, and your ability to show up fully in your life. Protecting it is not optional, it's essential. Every day, your energy is being pulled in different directions. Responsibilities demand it. People influence it, and your own thoughts can either strengthen or weaken it. If you are not intentional about how you manage your energy, it will be consumed by things that do not serve you. You might start your day feeling capable and motivated, but by the time the day progresses, you feel drained without fully understanding why. Often it's not just the work you're doing, it's how your energy is being used and where it's being wasted. One of the biggest drains on energy is negativity. This doesn't only come from external sources, like difficult people or challenging situations, but also from within. Negative thoughts, constant worrying, overthinking, and self-doubt can quietly consume a significant amount of your energy. Even if you are physically still, your mind can be working overtime, draining you in ways that are not immediately visible. That mental exhaustion often translates into physical fatigue, making it harder to stay focused and productive. Protecting your energy starts with awareness. You have to begin by noticing what affects you. What situations leave you feeling drained? What conversations lower your mood? What habits leave you feeling tired or unfocused? When you start to identify these patterns, you gain the ability to make changes. Without that awareness, you are simply reacting, allowing your energy to be influenced without any control. Another important aspect of energy is that it is not just about quantity, it's about quality. You can have a full day ahead of you, but if your energy is scattered, it will be difficult to accomplish meaningful tasks. On the other hand, even a short period of focus, high-quality energy can produce significant results. This is why it's not enough to simply have energy. You need to direct it intentionally. Your morning plays a crucial role in setting your energy for the rest of the day. How you start your day often determines how your energy flows. If you begin your day in a rushed, distracted, or negative state, that energy carries forward. But if you start with intention, clarity, and a sense of control, you create a foundation that supports you throughout the day. It doesn't require a complicated routine. It simply requires being mindful of how you begin. Sleep is one of the most obvious yet often neglected factors in energy management. Without proper rest, everything becomes harder. Your focus decreases, your patience shortens, and your ability to handle challenges weakens. Protecting your energy means prioritizing rest, even when it feels like there are more important things to do, because without energy, even those important things become difficult to accomplish effectively. Nutrition and physical movement also play a significant role. What you consume affects how you feel. If your body is not properly fueled, your energy will suffer. Similarly, movement helps maintain and even increase energy levels. It might seem counterintuitive, but engaging in physical activity often leaves you feeling more energized rather than less. Taking care of your physical health is a fundamental part of protecting your energy. But energy is not only physical, it is emotional and mental as well. Emotional energy is influenced by your relationships, your experiences, and how you process what happens to you. Being around people who are constantly negative, critical, or draining can have a significant impact on how you feel. Protecting your energy sometimes means setting boundaries. It means recognizing when certain interactions are affecting you and making conscious decisions about how much access those influences have to you. Boundaries are not about shutting people out completely. They are about maintaining balance. They allow you to engage with others without losing yourself in the process. When you don't have boundaries, it becomes easy for your energy to be consumed by the needs, opinions, and emotions of others. Over time, this can leave you feeling depleted and disconnected from your own priorities. Mental energy is closely tied to focus. In a world full of distraction, maintaining focus has become increasingly difficult. Every notification, every piece of information, every interruption pulls a small amount of your attention. Individually, these distractions may seem insignificant, but collectively, they can drain your energy. Constantly switching between tasks, reacting to messages, and consuming information can leave your mind feeling scattered and exhausted. Protecting your mental energy requires creating space for focus. This might mean turning off notifications, setting specific times for certain activities, or simply allowing yourself periods of uninterrupted work. When your attention is not constantly divided, your energy becomes more concentrated. You are able to think more clearly, work more efficiently, and feel less drained. Another important factor is how you respond to challenges. Difficult situations are inevitable, but the way you react to them determines how much energy they consume. If you dwell on problems, replay negative experiences, or allow frustration to take over, it amplifies the drain. But if you approach challenges with a problem-solving mindset, focusing on what you can do rather than what went wrong, you conserve your energy and use it more productively. Your thoughts play a significant role in shaping your energy. Positive, constructive thoughts can uplift and energize you, while negative, repetitive thoughts can weigh you down. This doesn't mean you have to ignore reality or force yourself to be positive all the time. It means being aware of your thought patterns and choosing not to let negative thinking dominate your mindset. Protecting your energy also means learning to say no. Not every opportunity, request, or responsibility deserves your time and attention. When you say yes to everything, you spread your energy too thin. You end up feeling overwhelmed, unable to give your best to anything. Saying no allows you to preserve your energy for what truly matters. It creates space for focus, for rest, and for meaningful effort. Rest is often misunderstood. It's not just about sleeping. It's about allowing yourself moments to recharge throughout the day. This could be taking a short break, stepping away from work, or simply allowing your mind to pause. Without these moments, your energy can become depleted, leading to burnout. Rest is not a sign of weakness. It is a necessary part of maintaining your energy over the long term. It's also important to recognize that your energy levels will fluctuate. You will not feel the same level of energy every day, and that's normal. The goal is not to maintain constant high energy, but to manage it effectively. On days when your energy is lower, you may need to adjust your expectations, focus on smaller tasks, or prioritize rest. On days when your energy is higher, you can take advantage of that momentum to accomplish more. Protecting your energy requires consistency. It's not something you do once and forget about. It's an ongoing process of awareness, adjustment, and intentional action. Over time, as you become more attuned to what affects your energy, you develop a better understanding of how to manage it. There is also a sense of respect involved in protecting your energy. It's about recognizing that your energy is valuable and treating it as such. When you respect your energy, you make choices that support it. You avoid unnecessary drains, you prioritize what matters, and you create habits that sustain you. When your energy is protected and well managed, everything becomes more effective. Your work improves because you are more focused. Your relationships improve because you are more present. Your mindset improves because you are not constantly drained. You begin to feel more in control, more capable, and more aligned with your goals. On the other hand, when your energy is constantly depleted, even simple tasks can feel overwhelming. You may find yourself struggling to stay motivated, losing focus easily, and feeling frustrated with your progress. It's not always a lack of ability, it's often a lack of energy. Understanding this shifts the way you approach your day. Instead of only focusing on what you need to do, you also consider how you need to feel in order to do it well. You become more intentional about how you spend your energy, not just your time. Every choice you make throughout the day either supports your energy or drains it. The way you think, the people you interact with, the habits you maintain, all of these contribute to your overall energy. By becoming more aware of these factors, you gain the ability to make better choices. Protecting your energy is ultimately about creating a life that supports you rather than drains you. It's about aligning your actions, your environment, and your mindset in a way that allows you to show up fully. It's not about avoiding challenges or responsibilities, but about approaching them in a way that preserves your ability to handle them effectively. When you begin to take your energy seriously, you start to notice changes. You feel more focused, more balanced, and more in control. You are able to give your best effort more consistently without feeling constantly exhausted. You begin to understand that energy is not something you can afford to ignore. It is something you must actively protect, because at the end of the day, everything you do depends on it. Struggle is something most people try to avoid. It's uncomfortable, unpredictable, and often painful. When things don't go as planned, when progress feels slow, when obstacles keep appearing, the natural reaction is frustration. You start to question why it's happening, why it has to be this hard, why things can't just be easier. But what many people fail to recognize is that struggle is not just an obstacle. It is a process. It is one of the most powerful forces for growth, development, and transformation. Being thankful for the struggle does not mean you enjoy the pain or pretend that difficulties are pleasant. It means you understand their purpose. It means you recognize that the very things you wish were easier are often the things shaping you into someone stronger, more capable, and more resilient. Without struggle, there is no real growth. Comfort might feel good in the moment, but it rarely pushes you to improve. Think about any area of life where progress is required. Whether it's learning a skill, building a career, improving your health, or developing discipline, there's always a period of difficulty. At the beginning, things feel unfamiliar. You make mistakes. You feel slow, uncertain, and sometimes even discouraged. That phase is not a sign that you are failing. It's a sign that you are growing. Struggle is often a space where learning happens. When you resist struggle, you resist growth. You start looking for shortcuts, for easier paths, for ways to avoid discomfort. While that might bring temporary relief, it often limits your long-term potential. Growth requires effort, and effort often comes with difficulty. When you begin to accept that, your perspective shifts. Instead of seeing struggle as something to escape, you start to see it as something to embrace. There's also a level of strength that can only be developed through struggle. When things are easy, you don't have to push yourself. You don't have to dig deep or find resilience. But when you face challenges, you are forced to adapt. You are forced to find solutions, to develop patience, to build endurance. Those qualities cannot be learned in comfort. They are forged in difficulty. Being thankful for the struggle also helps you maintain perspective during hard times. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what is this teaching me? That shift changes everything. It turns frustration into curiosity. It turns setbacks into lessons. It allows you to find meaning even in situations that are not ideal. This doesn't mean that every struggle will immediately make sense. There will be moments when things feel overwhelming, when the purpose is not clear, when the outcome is uncertain. But even in those moments, there is an opportunity to grow. Sometimes the lesson is patience. Sometimes it's persistence. Sometimes it's learning to let go of what you cannot control. Another important aspect of struggle is that it builds appreciation. When you go through difficult times and come out stronger, you gain a deeper understanding of what you have achieved. Success feels more meaningful because you know what it took to get there. You value the progress because you experienced the effort behind it. Without struggle, achievements can feel empty, as if they were given rather than earned. Struggle also reveals your true character. It shows you how you respond under pressure, how you handle uncertainty, and how you deal with setbacks. It exposes both your strengths and your weaknesses. While this can be uncomfortable, it is also valuable. It gives you insight into who you are and who you need to become. It highlights areas where you can improve and grow. Gratitude during struggle is not about denying the difficulty. It's about recognizing the opportunity within. It's about understanding that even though the situation may be challenging, it's contributing to your development in some way. This mindset helps you stay grounded. It prevents you from being consumed by negativity and allows you to keep moving forward. There's also a sense of resilience that comes from embracing struggle. When you stop fearing difficulty, you become more willing to take on challenges. You become less afraid of failure because you understand that failure is part of the process. You begin to see obstacles not as barriers, but as stepping stones. This resilience is what allows you to keep going, even when gratitude in the face of struggle is a powerful mindset because it keeps you moving forward. It prevents you from becoming stuck in frustration or negativity. It allows you to find meaning even in difficult situations. And most importantly, it helps you grow. Every challenge you face has the potential to shape you. It can either break you down or build you up, depending on how you approach it. When you choose to be thankful for the struggle, you choose to use it as a tool for growth. You choose to learn from it, to adapt, and to become stronger. And as you continue on your journey, you begin to understand that struggle is not something that disappears. It evolves. New challenges will come as you grow. But with each experience, you become better equipped to handle. You develop the mindset, the resilience, and the perspective needed to keep moving forward. In that way, struggle becomes not just a part of your journey, but a defining element of your growth. Excuses are easy. They come naturally, almost automatically, especially when things get difficult. They give you a way out, a way to justify why something didn't happen, why progress wasn't made, why effort wasn't given. In a moment, they can feel comforting. They protect you from discomfort, from accountability, from facing a gap between where you are and where you want to be. But over time, excuses don't protect you. They limit you. They quietly hold you back from growth, from progress, and from becoming the person you're capable of becoming. Effort, on the other hand, is not always comfortable. It requires action, consistency, and a willingness to push through resistance. It doesn't offer immediate relief the way excuses do. Instead, it demands something from you, your time, your energy, your focus. But unlike excuses, effort leads somewhere. It creates movement. It builds momentum. It produces results. Take time to appear. The difference between excuses and effort often comes down to responsibility. When you make excuses, you shift responsibility away from yourself. You point to circumstances, to other people, to situations that you believe are preventing you from moving forward. While those factors may be real, focusing on them gives them power over your actions. It puts you in a passive position where you are waiting for things to change before you act. Effort takes that responsibility back. It said, regardless of what's happening, I will do what I can with what I have. It doesn't ignore challenges, but it refuses to let them become barriers to action. It focuses on what is within your control rather than what is not. That shift is empowering because it puts you back in charge of your progress. One of the reasons excuses are so common is because they are often justified. You might be tired, busy, stressed, or facing real obstacles. These are not imaginary problems. They are legitimate challenges. But the presence of a challenge does not automatically justify inaction. There is almost always something you can do, even if it's small. Yes, some require perfect condition. It requires a willingness to act despite imperfect condition. Another reason excuses are appealing is because they protect your self-image. When you don't try, you don't have to face the possibility of failure. You can tell yourself that you could have succeeded if you had tried, which feels safer than trying and not succeeding. But this mindset comes at a cost. It keeps you in a place of potential rather than progress. You remain stuck in what you could do rather than discovering what you can actually achieve. Effort, by contrast, vulnerability. It means putting yourself out there, taking risks and accepting that things might not go as planned, but it also opens the door to growth. When you make an effort, you learn, you gain experience, you develop skills. Even when the outcome is not what you expected, you move forward in some way. There is also a compounding effect to effort. Small action, repeated consistently over time, lead to significant results. One day of effort may not seem like much, but when that effort is sustained, It builds momentum, creates progress that accumulates. Excuses, on the other hand, have the opposite effect. They create stagnation. Each excuse may seem small, but over time, they add up to missed opportunities and unrealized potential. It's important to recognize that excuses often become habits. They are not always conscious decisions. They can become automatic responses to discomfort or difficulty. You might not even realize how often you are making them. Breaking that habit requires awareness. You have to start noticing when you are making excuses and question them. Ask yourself, is this a real limitation? Or is this something I'm using to avoid effort? This doesn't mean you ignore genuine limitations. There are situations where adjustments are necessary, where rest is needed, where circumstances require flexibility. But there's a difference between adjusting your approach and avoiding action altogether. Effort is not about pushing yourself to exhaustion. It's about doing what you can, consistently within your capacity. Effort also builds discipline. Discipline is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's what allows you to stay consistent, even when motivation fades. Excuses weaken discipline because they create a pattern of avoidance. Each time you give in to an excuse, it becomes easier to do so again. Each time you choose effort instead, you strengthen your ability to follow through. There is a certain honesty that comes with choosing effort over excuses. It requires you to be real with yourself about where you are, what you're doing. It removes the illusion that things will change on their own. It forces you to confront the reality that your actions or lack of actions are shaping your outcomes. While this can be uncomfortable, it is also necessary for growth. Effort also changes how you see challenges. Instead of viewing them as reasons to stop, you begin to see them as part of the process. You expect difficulty and you prepare for it. You understand that progress is not always smooth, and you are willing to work through the ups and downs. This mindset makes you more resilient and less likely to be discouraged by setbacks. Another important aspect is that effort is within your control. You may not be able to control outcomes, timing, or external circumstances, but you can control the effort you put in. This gives you a sense of stability. Even when things are uncertain, you know that you can still take action. You can still move forward regardless of what is happening around you. Excuses often focus on what is missing. Time, resources, support, perfect conditions. Effort focuses on what is available. It asks, what can I do right now with what I have? This shift in focus is powerful because it turns limitations into starting points. It encourages creativity, problem solving, and adaptability. There is also a sense of pride that comes from effort. When you know you have given your best, regardless of the outcome, it creates a feeling of satisfaction. You may not always achieve the result you want, but you can respect the effort you put in. This builds confidence over time because you begin to trust yourself to show up and do the work. On the other hand, relying on excuses often leads to regret. You may look back and wonder what could have happened if you had tried, if you had been consistent, if you had pushed through the discomfort. That sense of missed opportunity can be more painful than the discomfort of effort itself. Effort also influences how others perceive you. People respect those who show up, who try, who are willing to put in the work. It builds credibility and trust. Excuses, especially when repeated, can have the opposite effect. They can make others question your reliability and commitment. While external perception is not everything, it can impact opportunities and relationships. It's also important to understand that effort is not always visible. Sometimes the work you are doing may not be immediately recognized or rewarded. This can be discouraging, especially when it feels like your efforts are not paying off. But progress is not always immediate. It often happens beneath the surface, building gradually until it becomes visible. Patience is an important part of effort. You have to be willing to continue, even when results are not immediate. This requires trust in the process and in yourself. It means focusing on the work rather than constantly looking for validation or quick outcomes. Choosing effort over excuse is a daily decision. It's made in small moments, in how you respond to discomfort, to fatigue, to challenges. It's not about making one big change. It's about making consistent choices that align with your goals. Some days the effort will feel easier. Other days it will feel harder. But each time you choose to act instead of avoid, you reinforce that habit. It's also helpful to set clear intentions. When you know what you are working toward, it becomes easier to stay committed. You have a reason to push through difficulty. Without that clarity, it's easier for excuses to take over because there is no strong sense of direction. At its core, the choice between excuses and effort is a choice between comfort and growth. Excuses keep you comfortable in the short term, but limit your long-term potential. Effort may be uncomfortable in the moment, but it leads to progress, development, and a sense of accomplishment. There will always be reasons not to act. There will always be obstacles, distractions, and challenges. But there will also always be an opportunity to make an effort, to take a step forward, to do something that moves you closer to your goals. The question is not whether challenges exist. The question is how you respond to them. Do you allow them to become excuses, or do you use them as reasons to push forward? That choice, made consistently over time, shapes your path. And as you continue to choose effort, you begin to see a difference. You become more disciplined, more focused, more resilient. You build momentum. You create progress. You move from talking about what you want to actually working toward it. Because at the end of the day, excuses explain why things didn't happen. Effort is what makes things happen. Motivation feels powerful, especially in the beginning. It gives you a surge of energy, a sense of excitement, a belief that you're ready to change everything. In those moments, things feel clear. You set goals, you make plans, and you feel unstoppable. But the problem with motivation is that it doesn't last. It rises and falls depending on your mood, your environment, your circumstances, and even how you feel physically. Some days it's strong, other days it's completely absent. If you rely only on motivation, your progress becomes inconsistent because your effort depends on how you feel in the moment. Discipline is different. Discipline is not based on feeling. It's based on commitment. It is the ability to do what needs to be done. Even when you don't feel like doing it, it doesn't wait for the right mood or the perfect moment. It operates regardless of whether you feel inspired or tired, excited or bored. That consistency is what makes discipline far more powerful than motivation over the long term. When you depend on motivation, you are essentially handing control over your actions to your emotions. On days when you feel good, you take action. On days when you don't, you delay, avoid, or make excuses. This creates a cycle of starting and stopping. You begin something with energy, but when that energy fades, so does your effort. Over time, this inconsistency prevents you from building real progress. Discipline removes that uncertainty. It creates a structure that supports consistent action. Instead of asking yourself, do I feel like doing this? You ask, does this need to be done? That shift changes everything. It removes the debate in your mind. It replaces hesitation with action. It allows you to move forward even when motivation is not present. One of the reasons discipline is so effective is because it builds habits. When you repeat an action consistently, it becomes part of your routine. It requires less mental effort over time because it becomes automatic. You don't have to rely on bursts of motivation to get started. You simply follow the habit you've created. This reduces resistance and makes it easier to stay consistent. Motivation, on the other hand, often leads to intense but short-lived effort. You might work hard for a few days or weeks, but without discipline, it's difficult to maintain that level of effort. When motivation fades, the habit is not strong enough to carry you forward. You end up starting over again and again, which can be frustrating and discouraging. Discipline also creates stability. Life is unpredictable. There will be days when things don't go as planned, when you feel tired, when external factors make things more difficult. If your actions depend on motivation, these challenges can easily disrupt your progress. But if you have discipline, you are more likely to continue despite those challenges. You have a system in place that supports you even when conditions are not ideal. Another important aspect of discipline is that it builds trust in yourself. When you consistently follow through on what you say you will do, you begin to see yourself as reliable. You develop confidence in your ability to take action, regardless of how you feel. This self-trust is powerful because it reinforces your commitment. You no longer question whether you will show up. You expect it from yourself. Motivation can create excitement, but it doesn't necessarily build trust. You might feel inspired in the moment, but if that inspiration is not backed by consistent action, it doesn't lead to lasting change. It doesn't lead to lasting change. Discipline, on the other hand, proves to you that you are capable of consistency. It shows you that you can rely on yourself, even when things are difficult. There is also a level of mental strength that comes with discipline. It requires you to override your immediate desires in favor of long-term goals. This is not always easy. There will be moments when you want to rest instead of work, when you want to avoid discomfort instead of facing it. Discipline is what allows you to make the choice that aligns with your goals, even when it's not the easiest option. This doesn't mean you ignore your needs or push yourself to exhaustion. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being consistent. It's about being consistent. It's about finding a balance where you can maintain effort without burning out. This might include scheduling rest, managing your workload, and taking care of your physical and mental health. Discipline supports sustainability, not just intensity. Motivation often focuses on the outcome, the result you want to achieve. This driven by the excitement of reaching a goal. Discipline, however, focuses on the process. It emphasizes the actions you need to take day after day to move closer to that goal. This focus on the process is what creates real progress. It shifts your attention from distant results to immediate actions. When you focus on the process, you become less dependent on external validation. You don't need constant proof that you're making progress because you trust the work you're putting in. You understand that results take time, and you are willing to stay committed to the process, even when outcomes are not immediately visible. Discipline also helps you manage distractions. In a world filled with constant interruptions, it's easy to lose focus. Motivation might help you ignore distractions for a short period, but discipline allows you to consistently return to what matters. It helps you set boundaries, prioritize your tasks, and maintain focus over time. Another key difference is that motivation is often reactive, while discipline is proactive. Motivation responds to feelings and external stimuli. Discipline is planned and intentional. It involves setting routines, creating structures, and making decisions in advance. This proactive approach reduces the need for constant decision-making, which can be mentally exhausting. Decision fatigue is a real challenge. The more decisions you have to make, the more your mental energy is depleted. When you rely on motivation, you are constantly deciding whether to act, whether to act. With discipline, many of those decisions are already made. You have a plan, a routine, a set of actions that you follow. This simplifies your day and conserves your energy. Discipline also encourages accountability. When you commit to a routine or a set of actions, you hold yourself responsible for following through. This accountability is internal. It comes from your own standards and expectations. It doesn't depend on external pressure or supervision. This makes it more reliable because it is self-driven. Motivation can be influenced by external factors, music, speeches, environment, or other people. While these can be helpful, they are not always available. Discipline, however, is something you carry with you. It doesn't depend on external conditions. It is a skill you develop and strengthen over time. It's also important to recognize that discipline can actually create motivation. When you take action, even without feeling motivated, you often begin to feel better. Progress creates momentum, and momentum can lead to renewed motivation. In this way, discipline can lead and motivation can follow. This reverses the usual pattern where people wait for motivation before acting. There will still be days when discipline feels difficult. It's not always easy to stay consistent, especially when you are tired or facing challenges. But those are often the moments when discipline matters most. Showing up on those days reinforces your commitment and strengthens your habit. It proves to you that you can continue even when it's hard. Over time, the benefits of discipline become more evident. You begin to see consistent progress. You build habits that support your goals. You develop confidence in your ability to follow through. You create a sense of control over your actions and your time. Motivation can still play a role. It can inspire you, give you a boost, and help you get started. But it should not be the foundation of your progress. Discipline is what sustains that progress. It is what carries you through the days when motivation is absent. Building discipline takes time. It starts with small actions repeated consistently. It requires patience and persistence. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. Each time you choose to act, despite not feeling like it, you strengthen your discipline. It's also helpful to create an environment that supports discipline. This might include removing distractions, setting clear goals, and establishing routine. The more you can reduce obstacles and make it easier to follow through, the more likely you are to stay consistent. Discipline is not about being rigid or inflexible. It's about creating a structure that supports your goals while allowing for adjustments when necessary. It's about staying committed, even when conditions change. At its core, the difference between motivation and discipline is the difference between starting and continuing. Motivation might get you started, but discipline keeps you going. It ensures that your progress does not depend on temporary feelings, but on consistent action. When you rely on discipline, you take control of your actions. You no longer wait for the right mood or the perfect moment. You create your own momentum. You build a system that supports your growth, regardless of how you feel on any given day. And as you can, these feelings can drain your energy and distract you from your own progress. By shifting your focus inward, you reduce those negative influences and create a more positive environment for growth. It's important to understand that being inspired by others is different from competing with them. Inspiration can be valuable. It can show you what is possible and motivate you to improve. But inspiration becomes harmful when it turns into comparison. The key is to use others as examples of what can be achieved, not as benchmarks that determine your worth. When you compete with yourself, you begin to set your own standards. These standards are based on your goals, your values, and your potential. They are not influenced by external expectations or comparison. This allows you to create a path that is meaningful to you, rather than one that is shaped by outside pressure. Another important aspect of self-competition is self-awareness. You need to understand where you are, what your strengths are, and where you need to improve. This requires honesty. It means being willing to acknowledge your weaknesses without letting them define you. It means recognizing your progress without becoming complacent. Tracking your progress can be helpful in this process. When you have a clear sense of where you started and where you are now, it becomes easier to see your improvement. This reinforces your efforts and keeps you motivated. It reminds you that even if progress feels slow, it is still happening. Self-competition also encourages consistency. When your goal is to improve yourself, you focus on showing up regularly. You are less concerned with outperforming others and more focused on maintaining your own standards. This consistency is what leads to long-term growth. It builds habits that support your development and makes progress more sustainable. There will still be moments when you are tempted to compare yourself to others. That's natural. The key is to recognize those moments and redirect your focus. Remind yourself of your own journey, your own goals, and your own progress. Bring your attention back to what you can control. Competing with yourself also helps you handle setbacks more effectively. When you are focused on others, setbacks can feel like confirmation that you are falling behind. But when you are focused on your own progress, setbacks become part of the process. They are opportunities to learn, adjust, and continue improving. This perspective makes you more resilient and less likely to be discouraged. There's also a sense of satisfaction that comes from self-improvement. When you know that you are becoming better, even in small ways, it creates a sense of accomplishment. This satisfaction is not dependent on external validation or comparison. It comes from within, from knowing that you are putting in the effort and making progress. Self-competition also allows you to celebrate your wins, no matter how small. When you are constantly comparing yourself to others, it's easy to overlook your achievements because they may seem insignificant in comparison. But when you're focused, every improvement matters. Every step forward is something to acknowledge. Another benefit is that it reduces unnecessary pressure. When you are competing with others, there is often a sense of urgency to keep up or to outperform. This can lead to stress and burnout. But when you are competing with yourself, the pressure is different. It is more about commitment than comparison. It is about staying consistent, improving over time, rather than trying to keep pace with someone else. Self-competition also encourages a growth mindset. You begin to see your abilities as something that can be developed rather than fixed. You focus on learning, improving, and evolving. This mindset makes you more open to challenges and more willing to put in the effort required for growth. It's also important to be patient with yourself. Progress takes time, and growth is not always linear. There will be ups and downs, moments of progress and moments of stagnation. Competing with yourself means accepting that process and staying committed despite fluctuation. Your past self becomes your reference point. You look at where you were and where you are now. This comparison is constructive because it highlights your growth. It shows you how far you've come and what you've achieved through your efforts. At the same time, your future self becomes your motivation. You think about who you want to become and what you want to achieve. This vision guides your actions and keeps you focused. It gives you a sense of direction and purpose. Balancing these two perspectives, learning from your past and working towards your future, creates a powerful framework for growth. It keeps you grounded while also pushing you forward. Competing with yourself also strengthens your discipline. When your focus is internal, you rely less on external factors to motivate you. You develop the ability to push yourself, to hold yourself accountable, and to stay consistent. This discipline becomes a foundation for everything you do. It's also worth noting that self-competition does not mean isolation. You can still collaborate, learn from others, and be part of a community. The difference is that your sense of progress and worth is not dependent on how you compare to them. You use those interactions to grow, not to measure yourself. Over time, this mindset becomes more natural. You spend less energy on comparison and more on improvement. You become more focused, more intentional, and more confident in your path. You understand that your journey is your own and that your progress is defined by your efforts. The world will always present opportunities for comparison. There will always be people ahead in some way. But when you understand that you are your only competition, those comparisons lose their power. They no longer define your progress or your worth. Instead, you define it yourself. Through your actions, your consistency, and your commitment to grow. You measure success not by where others are, but by how far you have come and how much you continue to improve. And as you continue on that path, you begin to realize that the most meaningful competition is not external, it is internal. It is the daily effort to become better than you were before, to push your limit and to reach your potential. That is a competition you can always win as long as you keep showing up. Mornings often pass by without much thought. The alarm goes off, you wake up, and almost immediately you're pulled into the demands of the day. Messages, responsibilities, distractions. They all begin competing for your attention before you've even had a moment to think clearly. It becomes routine, something automatic, something you move through without intention. But what many people don't realize is that the way you use your morning has a powerful influence on the direction of your entire day. Wasting your mornings doesn't always look obvious. It's not always about doing nothing. Sometimes it looks like being busy with the wrong thing, scrolling endlessly, reacting to notifications, rushing without clarity, or jumping into tasks without any sense of priority. These actions may feel harmless in the moment, but they quietly shape your mindset. They set a tone of distraction, urgency, and lack of control. When you waste your mornings, you often start your day feeling behind. There is a sense that time has already slipped away, that you are reacting instead of leading. That feeling can carry throughout the day, affecting your focus, your energy, and your ability to make intentional decisions. You might find yourself constantly catching up, moving from one task to another without a clear sense of direction. On the other hand, when you treat your mornings as something valuable, everything begins to shift. You start your day with intention rather than reaction. You give yourself space to think, to prepare, and to align your actions with your goals. This doesn't require a complicated routine or hours of preparation. It simply requires awareness and choice. Your morning is the one part of the day that you have the most control over, especially before the world begins to demand your attention. It is a window of opportunity where you can set the foundation for everything that follows. How you use that window determines whether your day feels organized or chaotic. focused, or scattered. One of the key aspects of not wasting your mornings is clarity. Before you dive into your day, it's important to know what matters. What are your priorities? What do you want to accomplish? Without this clarity, it's easy to get pulled in different directions. You might spend time on tasks that feel urgent, but are not actually important. You might react to what others need instead of focusing on what you need to do. Taking even a few minutes in the morning to think about your priorities can make a significant difference. It allows you to approach your day with purpose instead of asking, what should I do next? Throughout the day, you already have a direction. This reduces decision fatigue and helps you stay focused. Another important aspect is how you manage distractions. Mornings are often filled with potential distractions, especially in a world where technology is constantly present. The moment you pick up your phone, you open the door to endless information, notifications, and comparison. While it might seem harmless to check something quickly, it often leads to more distraction than intended. Protecting your morning from these distractions can help you maintain focus. It allows you to start your day on your own terms rather than reacting to external inputs. This doesn't mean you have to completely avoid technology, but it means being intentional about how and when you use it. Energy also plays a significant role in how you use your morning. After rest, your energy is often at its highest, both mentally and physically. This makes mornings an ideal time to focus on tasks that require concentration, creativity, or effort. When you waste this high energy period on low value activity, you lose an opportunity to make meaningful progress. By aligning your most important tasks with your highest energy levels, you increase your efficiency and effectiveness. You are able to accomplish more in less time with better focus and fewer mistakes. This creates a sense of momentum that can carry throughout the rest of your day. Your mindset in the morning is equally important. The way you think when you wake up sets the emotional tone for your day. If you begin with stress, negativity, or frustration, that mindset can influence how you perceive and respond to situations. But if you begin with clarity, gratitude, or intention, it creates a more positive and stable foundation. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to feel a certain way. It means being aware of your thoughts and choosing how you want to approach the day. Even a small shift in mindset can have a significant impact on your overall experience. Consistency is another key factor. It's not about having a perfect morning once. It's about creating a pattern over time. When you consistently use your mornings well, it becomes a habit. You begin to expect more from that time. You start to see it as an opportunity rather than something to rush through. There will be days when things don't go as planned. You might wake up late, feel tired, or have unexpected responsibilities. That's normal. The goal is not perfection, but intention. Even on those days, making a small effort to focus, to set a priority, or to avoid unnecessary distractions can make a difference. Wasted mornings often come from a lack of awareness. When you don't recognize the value of that time, it's easy to let it slip away. But when you understand how much influence it has on your day, you begin to treat it differently. You become more protective of it, more intentional with it. There is also a sense of discipline involved. Choosing not to waste your morning requires making decisions that may not always feel easy. It might mean getting out of bed when you would rather stay comfortable. It might mean delaying distractions in favor of focus. These choices require effort, but they also build discipline over time. The benefits of using your mornings well extend beyond productivity. They affect your confidence, your mindset, and your overall sense of control. When you start your day with intention, you feel more prepared. You feel like you are leading your day rather than being led by it. This sense of control can reduce stress and increase your ability to handle challenges. Your mornings also influence your habits. The way you start your day often determines how you continue it. If you begin with discipline and focus, you are more likely to maintain those qualities throughout the day. If you begin with distraction and anxiety, it becomes harder to shift into a productive state later. Another important point is that mornings are not just about doing more. They are about doing what matters. It's not about filling every moment with activity. It's about being intentional with your time. Sometimes that might mean taking a moment to think, to reflect, or to prepare mentally. Those moments can be just as valuable as completing tasks. Over time, the way you use your mornings can shape your overall lifestyle. It influences your habits, your routines, and your mindset. It becomes part of how you approach your day and your responsibilities. Small changes in the morning can lead to significant changes in the long run. It's also helpful to recognize that your morning routine does not have to look like anyone else's. What works for one person may not work for another. The key is to find what supports your goals, your energy, and your lifestyle. The focus should be on effectiveness, not imitation. Being intentional with your mornings also allows you to create a sense of calm. Instead of rushing, reacting, and feeling overwhelmed, you give yourself space to start the day with clarity. This calmness can improve your focus and reduce unnecessary stress. When you consistently avoid wasting your mornings, you begin to notice patterns. You see how your actions in the morning influence your outcomes throughout the day. You become more aware of what works and what doesn't. This awareness allows you to make adjustments and continue improving. There is also a sense of respect involved. When you value your morning, you are valuing your time and your potential. You are recognizing that each day is an opportunity and you are choosing to use it wisely. This respect extends to other areas of your life, influencing how you manage your time and your priorities. The impact of this mindset is not immediate, but it builds over time. Each intentional morning adds to your progress. Each focused start creates momentum over days, weeks, and months. These small efforts accumulate, leading to significant change. Wasting your mornings may not seem like a big deal in isolation, but repeated over time, it can limit your potential. It can keep you in a cycle of reaction and inconsistency. On the other hand, using your mornings intentionally can set you on a path of growth, focus, and control. Every morning presents a choice. You can let it pass without intention, or you can use it as a foundation for your day. That choice may seem small, but it carries weight, influences how you think, how you act, and how you move through your day. And when you begin to make that choice consistently, you start to see a difference, not just in what you accomplish, but in how you feel, how you think, and how you approach your life.